it's pretty amazing to think of those geographies or resituating those. And since this is a mapping project, I know we've talked previously about the different kinds of maps. Like most of the maps that the Tamba have are linguistic-based maps. And I was wondering if you could speak to how the geographies that you're going to be introducing us to differ in a way. Like how did Tamba people create their own worldly spatialities, their own maps, like around this? I mean, I think what you just said speaks a lot to the different ways. You talked about trade, you talked about kinship, and you talked about ceremony. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on what a Tongva mapping would look like.
A Tongva map would probably look similar to, one of those children's coloring pages, connect the dots, because you have where each of those dots is a village community, or even like maybe a political confederation that was connected to other communities through intermarriage and ceremonial reciprocation, because there were certain ceremonies that we could not perform for our own communities, especially when it came to funerals. You had to call in another community to come and perform certain rituals, so you couldn't do that. So that necessitated you to rely on another community. So you had that ceremonial reciprocation that connected communities to each other. And then you also had the intermarriage, which was connected to that, which was connected to the ceremony. So you had people, especially the leadership families, that intermarried with each other and connected communities. But you also had trade. And this being a major trade center, you had trade that connected the islands, especially like with the shell beads and even the soapstone, with communities way in the desert in Southern California and even further. So you had these communities that were connected to each other in many different ways. So, and one of the analogies that I like to give is most people are familiar with abalone shells. And if you look at the inside of an abalone shell and you see all these different colors, almost like a rainbow inside there, and it's really hard to depict where one color ends and one color begins. They kind of blend into each other. That's the analogy that I give people of how our communities were connected to each other. It's kind of like that, if you can imagine an abalone. So they were connected in different ways, and I believe that that's one of the ways that people survived on this land, was through those trade networks. Because as I was telling you guys earlier, drought is something that is not unfamiliar to California, especially Southern California. And when those drought periods hit Southern California, you had a lack of food in certain areas, like with certain crops, the acorn crop or other things. And when other communities had an abundance of a particular food, then you traded with them. So it was kind of, you are helping out, other people with trade and helping them to survive and sustain themselves. So that was a big part of survival here in Southern California.
So it's like native mobility becomes the necessary for survivance in many ways.
Right.
Relationships, or relational geographies versus the way it's depicted on a map, where you have these stagnant villages, right?
Right.
Rather than